So I got this Wingscapes Timelapse camera years ago when I first bought the property. Originally it was so I could trace the shadows moving across my lot, but I ended up really enjoying recording the construction process with it also. Lately I've wanted a better camera, and eventually my whining paid off and my wife got me this GoPro Hero 3 for my birthday. It's a white, which just means that it's at the low end of the GoPro range, but it still has the time-lapse feature that I wanted. For a comparative test, I mounted the two cameras like this. Sorry the lenses aren't quite at the same level, this isn't CNET.com. I recorded some time-lapse footage for an odd job that I did. So this is how my Wingscapes camera caught a picture of the skid steer as I drove past. And this is what the GoPro caught. Now the GoPro's at a slightly lower angle, but I was amazed at how much wider the angle was. This gives me much greater freedom of framing because I can zoom in on whatever region I choose. And so let's convert these images into time-lapse videos and take a look. I actually like the clarity of my old time-lapse camera, however its minimum lapse of 10 seconds means that the action isn't very smooth. And here's the GoPro. It had such a wide angle that I set the zoom level to nearly 2. I was able to pan it over and capture exactly the part of the scene that I wanted. And the shorter time-lapse, that 5-second interval here, makes the action appear smoother. The color doesn't seem as good, it's a bit washed out. Actually, let's take a moment to explain what I was doing here. I wanted to put a tarp across the back of the Quonset hut to stop the wind from blowing through so I could use it as more of a workshop. But it was like a wind tunnel in there and I couldn't keep the tarp still long enough to bolt it on. So I stacked these bales of rigid insulation to block the wind, and that worked really well. I do also think it's funny that at least temporarily I have an R value of 240 on the back of the garage. The video mode is much better with the GoPro. Here are some clips of a walkthrough. The super wide angle gives you a much better look at the place, even if it does warp things a little. Feel like I should be riding a mountain bike through here. Here's the window well. I still need to get all the shotcrete slag out of here on the floor. I'm just waiting for the ground to thaw. Here's the underside of my new stairs. Anyway, let's compare the two cameras. The Wingscapes cam has much better battery life, days or weeks with 4 AA's, and better time-lapse options for longer durations, from 10 seconds up to daily. On the other hand, it has a tiny pinhole lens and a large heavy housing that can be a challenge to set up. It also has a manual focus, and I've messed that up a few times. And it has a very basic and awkwardly placed and not well aligned viewfinder with no real way to tell how the shots are coming out until you download them. GoPro, on the other hand, has much better optics, plus its lens is very wide angle, which will help with those interior shots later on. The GoPro is also much smaller and easier to move around. The GoPro settings can actually be controlled from my phone, and my phone screen actually works as a viewfinder, which is really cool. The time-lapse options are better on the low end, with a number of options between half a second and 60 seconds, but nothing beyond that. The GoPro also has much better video options. Even though mine is just the white edition, it gives HD up to 60 frames per second. On the downside, the GoPro battery life is poor. It can do 3 hours of video, so I thought it could go for ages on the time-lapse. But it doesn't make it much further, even without the Wi-Fi viewer turned on. That drains the power even faster. And when the battery dies, it's a special GoPro battery, so I can't replace it with a spare. I guess I could buy one. Also, the color seems much less vivid on the GoPro. In summary, I don't plan to get rid of either camera. They both have their place and will help me catch good footage when we try to get this house built over the summer.